Great pleasure and a big honor to introduce to Professor Ben Feringa. First of all, I would like to apologize for this delay. That is always questions of doing things in life. So, and therefore has been solved everything. So now please enjoy the presentation by Professor Feringa. Let me, before starting, tell you something about him. Ben Feringa obtained his PhD degree at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands under the guidance of Professor Hans Wimberg. After working as a research scientist at Cell Company in the Netherlands and the Cell Biosciences Center in the UK, he was appointed lecturer in 1988, full professor at the University of Groningen, and named the Jacobus van 't Hoff Distinguished Professor of Molecular Sciences in 2004. He was elected foreign honorary member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and is member and vice president of the Royal Netherlands Academy of Sciences as well. In 2008, he was appointed Academy Professor and was knighted by Her Majesty the Queen of the Netherlands. Feringa's research has been recognized with a number of awards, including the Kerber European Science Award, the Spinoza Award, the Prelog Gold Medal, the Norris Award of the ACS, the Paracelsus Medal, the Causalité Medal, the Royal Society of Chemistry Organic Stereochemistry Award, Humboldt Award, the Grand Prix Scientifique Sino del Duca, French Academy, the Marie Curie Medal, and the Nagoya Gold Medal, among others. So let me stop here. The research interest includes stereochemistry, organic synthesis, asymmetric catalysis, optopharma, molecular switches and motors, self-assembly, and molecular nanosystems. Please, don't be afraid. He will not tell us about that. This is a general, for a general audience presentation. So, and it's according, what he will present is according with the title, which is over there, The Joy of Discovery. And as everybody knows, in 2016, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the design and synthesis of molecular machines. Together with Jean-Pierre Sauvage, actually, Jean-Pierre Sauvage was giving a lecture last year in 2D, not, it was online because of the virus at that time. Jean-Pierre Sauvage and Fraser Stoddart, the three together, yeah. Feringa builds tiny molecular switches and motors from organic molecules. Such molecular motors play an important role in nature. In muscle cells, for example, myosin molecules are responsible for muscle concentration. Feringa developed a light-driven molecular motor based on the light-sensitive molecule rhodopsin. These molecules can directly use light to generate a directional rotor movement. The molecular motor thus becomes controllable and is therefore capable to perform a specific task. Molecular motors can currently rotate up to 10 million times per second. So, Ben, it's a great pleasure to have you here. You will be welcomed by Complutense University, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Martin, for the very kind words. I will talk about nanotechnology. And you know now how difficult technology is, you know, because we had already a problem with the projector, but we solved everything. And that is our duty as scientists. So I will talk a little bit about my journey, about the joy of discovery, but of course I will talk also about what we have discovered and what we are doing, you know, and a little bit the journey towards our discoveries and our Nobel Prize. So the joy of discovery, you realize here, I put this picture of the universe here, yeah, which is gigantic. Eh? Our colleagues in astrophysics, you know, they like the stars, black holes, the universe. We like molecules and materials. And there is a universe which is even larger than the entire universe. But these are small molecules, you know, nano science, and I will explain to you in a moment. So I often get the question, why do we need these nano machines? Why do we need this technology? This was a kind of question, why do we need molecular motors, that I will show you in a moment. This question was asked to the Wright brothers more than 100 years ago. Why do we need airplanes? If God wanted us to fly, he would have given us wings. You realize that we are all inspired by the flying pigeon, like the Wright brothers probably. But this Boeing, or Airbus in this case, that we make here in Europe, that we built, is not a flying pigeon. Eh? The 3.5 million parts are completely artificial. Yeah? By the way, nobody would have predicted here that we would build this in Europe 100 years later. This carries 400 people, 1,000 kilometers an hour across the ocean. Try to carry 400 people with a pigeon 1,000 kilometers across the ocean. You will fail. But also we should be modest, because 100 years after the Wright brothers, my biology friends tell me we cannot build a pigeon. We cannot build a single cell of the pigeon yet. We cannot build even one of the machineries of the pigeon. So we should be very modest. Yeah? There's a lot to be done and to discover. So why fundamental science? From fundamental science to modern society. Let's not forget, who has not a smartphone here? I don't see any hands raised. Okay, thank you. You know, the fundamental discoveries, yeah, were made in the late 40s and early 50s of the past century. The physics that make the first transistor, the chemist that looked at the first display materials. Nobody knew that we would have a smartphone, yeah, 70 years ago. The word did not exist. The first computer was built, yeah. The first computer, yeah, IBM, that had the size of this room and could do way less than your smartphone today. Scientific questions and fundamental insights that led to new discoveries and insights, and realize, yeah, it has been only 14 years or 15 years that we have now a smartphone. So it was the display materials, the fundamental discoveries on transistors 70 years ago that make the 50-year route possible that changes the world. And I think we all agree that it changes our world, the way we communicate these days. So it was the physics, the transistors, chemistry, liquid crystal materials, batteries. John Goodenough got in 2019 the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for batteries, developed together with his colleagues in Japan in the early 80s of the past century. Yeah? Otherwise we would not have smartphones, and otherwise we would not have electric cars these days. Engineers make devices, computer scientists make the programs, and many more to make this all possible. So this is fundamental science, and the joy of discovery is going in our path to the future with our young talents, an adventure in the unknown. That's what we do at our universities and research institutes, the basics of fundamental science, to ask questions. Questions, and that provides challenges to our research teams, our students, dreams for our people, and opportunities for society and industry. And of course, often, yeah, it is serendipity, accidental discoveries that make breakthroughs. We should not forget that. So there are no failed experiments. I address myself now to the students. If you have a failed experiment, think what you learn from it, yeah? And you might have a serendipitous discovery that might change our world. But also often, of course, we get completely lost in this beautiful garden, which is the garden of knowledge and science. And I am a chemist, and we build molecules, and I enjoy the beauty of the molecular world. Simply because molecules are beautiful, but also molecules are the basis for pharmaceuticals, for drugs, for all the materials around you, for your smartphone. But of course, we should realize that often we get lost in this beautiful garden, and we hit upon questions that we have never thought about. questions that we ask to Mother Nature, to science. And often these are the most beautiful questions. So don't be afraid to get lost, because you might get fantastic discoveries. So we go indeed at our universities and institutes beyond our horizon, and that's an adventure, because our duty is to go beyond our current horizon of knowledge, of science, of what we know today. And yeah, we might hit upon the origin of the rainbow, which we will never find, of course. Yeah? But on our path to there, we might come up with fantastic new insights that will change our world. So, my horizon when I was a kid, yeah, was this. I grew up on a farm. This is the German border. Here was our farm. There was a lot of farmland and wilderness. Yeah? And so this was a view from our farm. Yeah? And this is probably me here. Yeah? A small boy being fascinated by discoveries and insights. So when you grow up on a farm in a remote village, in a remote area, there's a lot to be discovered. Yeah? So I asked my father, you know, about all kinds of questions. And we crossed illegally the border. At that time, when I was a small kid, it was still not allowed to go into Germany. Yeah? There were border guards. But of course, this was wilderness, so we illegally went in there, and that's a real adventure. And I have done this my whole life, crossing borders, you know, going to find the adventure. So this is my father and mother, this is the farm. I asked my father all the time, you know, when I was a kid, why is this color different from this color? Yeah, from the potatoes and this beautiful color here. Why from a small grain you can grow this beautiful flower, or you can grow the crops on the field? Yeah, so this is I have 9 brothers and sisters, you know, and we stimulated each other a lot. And it was wonderful to grow up in such an environment where you stimulate each other, you ask questions, you have animals, you have crops, you have all these flowers, all these things. And I was reading books. We had a lot of books at home. And I was reading about adventurers, discoverers, Columbus, you know, when I was a kid. It was wonderful, you know, and I liked that a lot. And I think that set the stage, you know, for high school. Because when I went to high school, suddenly I had the teachers, you know, that confronted us with mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, etc. And this is my chemistry teacher here, op de weg. And I met him before COVID, because we had a reunion at school. And he was fantastic, you know. He did experiments with us, absolutely great. And this set me on the stage to become a chemist later, you know, when I went to university. And he said, look, Ben, I wish every kid at least one inspiring teacher, because it makes the difference in your life. And I'm sure you all can mention one teacher in school that made the difference in your life. Yeah? That set you on the stage, that inspired you. And so then I went to the university. This was my professor, Hans Winberg. He was Dutch, but actually he was grown up in America and educated. He was a real American. Yeah? And he gave me a project, this is, by the way, our university main building. Yeah? Which was established, by the way, when we were still part of Spain, yeah, in the 16th century. But so it's the second oldest in the country. So Hans Winberg said, okay, this was an impossible project, but he said, we will make the Americans jealous. Now that was a good message to a young person like me, which was eager to discover. So this was my first molecule. And I never forget, yeah, I was 21 years old when I made this molecule, when I was working in his group as a student on a project. And I came to his office and he said, I made this molecule. I draw it on the blackboard. And then Winberg said to me, nobody ever made this molecule in this world. Not even in America. It was an absolutely useless molecule. But I was so proud, because this was my discovery. I made it. This was the first time. You can imagine I got excited about science. And so then before I continue, I want to give credit to our teachers, you know, and I know there are teachers in the audience. Yeah, we teach students at the universities. Teachers open windows, and we should not forget, invest in your education and your teachers. Please, if you are in politics, listen. Shape the future with your young talents, because they will make our sustainable society of the future. They will be the leaders in society and industry in 10, 20 years from now. So after my university PhD, I went to Shell, and I worked for 6.5 years at Shell, at the main Shell research laboratories in Amsterdam. and in the Shell Bioscience Centre in Kent in the UK. And this was an eye-opener, going from the university atmosphere into a multinational like Shell, which is one of the biggest companies of the world. So experience out of your comfort zone sometimes can be really rewarding. If you do a postdoc, you go abroad, or you study at a different department or whatever. And I got fascinated by bringing also something to a product, because to develop something from fundamental science, to bring it all the way to a new industrial product or something that is useful, is a real a different way. And motivation, also to stimulate how to do that and how to work in a team. So, in the art of building small, we do chemical synthesis. We build molecules. And so, these molecules, we do that in a chemical laboratory, and the chemists here know perfectly what I'm talking about. And we make these molecules because they might be beautiful. Now, you ask me, what is a beautiful molecule? Yeah? Is it a painting of Picasso, or is it this molecule? I don't know. That's always very, very personal. But I developed this passion for molecules, and I wanted to design my own molecular world. And that is what kept me busy. So, this is typically what synthesis people do, and I forgive for the chemical synthesis people here because they know this, of course, very well. But you take molecules, building blocks, you make small molecules, you make bigger molecules step by step. And this is, for instance, Taxol, an anti-cancer drug. This is extremely important, for treating women that have breast cancer. It's a life-saving drug. But you see, it's a huge, complex molecule. It takes numerous chemical steps. And for those people who are not in scientists or in the field of chemistry, it's like Lego, I often get this question. You people play like playing with Lego. Yes, that's true. We build with these different components. We build the materials, etc. Yeah, we build molecules. We build an anti-cancer drug, which is a life-saving drug. So, indeed, building molecules and materials in the laboratory, together with our teams of students, undergraduate, graduate students, postdocs, young researchers, we share a universal language. Every student knows that this is a sugar and this is the periodic table of the elements. Okay? And when I go to China, I don't speak Chinese, but when I talk with the students, that had some basic natural science in high school, they know that this is chemistry and these are molecules and the structure of atoms in your materials. We have no borders. There's a lot of discussion also in politics, about borders and we go beyond frontiers. We cross borders. Yeah? We have international cooperation. We have a scientific community everywhere in the world. It's fantastic to be here in Spain. I cooperate with groups in Spain. We have many friends here, but in many countries around the world. And we have a passion for discovery. And I want to remind you of the words of one of my heroes, Louis Pasteur, because we just celebrated 200 years of the birth of Pasteur. And he said, 200 years, or more than 150 years ago, science knows no country, because knowledge belongs to humanity and is the torch which illuminates the world. And I think this is appropriate today even more than ever. Yeah? Thinking about the role of our universities, our research institutes, the way we teach the young people, bring this torch forward, the torch of knowledge and discovery. That will shape our world and we will discover our future. So the periodic table, all Einstein and this guy here, Newton, but I think Mendeleev, people don't know him so well, but he discovered how all this works, everything you see here, including everything in your own body, is built up of this collection of atoms. Don't forget that, everything. And it was Mendeleev who made this for us to make it understandable. So this is the formula of your body. Your body, think about it. Hydrogen, 375 million. Oxygen, 332 million. Carbon, 85 million. And one lonely cobalt. Unfortunately, only one cobalt. So why is there so much hydrogen and oxygen? Can you stand up for a moment? Look. This is a good-looking man, Can you imagine 60% water? Yeah, plus a few other molecules, you see? Yeah. That's his body. Yeah. He's doing pretty well with all this water. Realize half of your body weight at least is water, yeah? This is what it looks like. Now the question to you. These are the elements in your body. Yeah. Or you can take a seat again. Now the question to you, are there more different, distinct elements in your smartphone than in your body or less? Think for 10 seconds. Okay, guys, here it is. Yeah, maybe you see it better on these screens. It's a bit sharper. You see, these are all the elements in your smartphone. So indeed, there are more distinct elements in your smartphone than in your own body. And realize there are many precious elements. And there is a big discussion now, of course, where do we get our precious elements for all electronic materials, all devices, etc. So we have to recycle and we have to find new sources. Because a lot comes from China. Yeah? And this is a political issue. And I don't want to go into that debate. But this is reality, you know. Yeah? So, chemistry facing our future, we need sustainable processes and products. We need to reinvent our materials. We have to change the face of the chemical industry, and we have to go from trial and error to molecular design in making the pharmaceuticals the drugs of the future. These are a lot of fundamental questions, yeah, that we have to address, yeah, together, of course, not in isolation, but together with our colleagues in physics, biology, medicine, pharmacy, yeah, material science, etc., etc. Fundamental questions and challenges and perspectives for society. So now about building molecules. We can build molecules here, a tiny one, 2 carbons and 4 hydrogens. Yeah? This is ethylene. We produce 160 million tons a year of this tiny molecule, plastic, sorry, that builds plastic. 160. We can discuss later about the issues with plastic pollution and how we have to do it different. This is a complex molecule, vitamin B12, you see? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, cobalt. This is vitamin B12, and I would say this is as essential as plastic for your life, because you need vitamin B12 to stay healthy, but you need only tiny amounts, microgram quantities, and the whole world production is 35 tons a year to keep everybody healthy. Very simple, very complex, huge volumes, very simple, small volumes. So, chemists typically together with our colleagues, you know, in different disciplines, we build the drugs and the dyes, the soaps, all the components, you know, how do you call the artificial components of a car or a plane, cables, the clothes, etc. This is what we do today. And I think we can be a bit proud, you know, because it built modern society. Yeah? But what we are not good at all is something that moves. And the fact that I can see you, that I can talk to you, that I can wave my hand, that I can walk here, is due to these tiny machines in your body. The rotary motors, the nanomotors that make things transporting in your cells. The ribosome, which is a beautiful robot that makes the proteins in your body. The motors that transport things, but also the bacteria flagella motor. This is absolutely fabulous. It makes the bacteria swim in your guts. And the bacteria can go backward and forward, clockwise and counterclockwise. Isn't it fabulous? This is what nature discovered. The optical switching process in the eye. And this is actually our starting point for my scientific journey. But let me very briefly touch upon the difference between a robot in a car manufacturing plant and a natural robot that I mentioned. This is the ribosome that makes the proteins in your body. This is the natural robot. Artificial robot in the car manufacturing plant. This is 2 meters, this is 24 meters. Realize at the nano level in your body, it's a different world. Yeah? This is hard material, this is soft material. But I would say this robot is way more complex than the robot that builds your car. And this is all happening now in your body. Yeah? Millions of these robots. So, nanotechnology started, I think, with Richard Feynman. In 1959 he said, there is plenty of room at the bottom. He was a famous physics person, and what he meant is, yeah, don't go to the basement, no, start with small molecules and atoms and build things up, like Mother Nature does it. Because what has been done in microtechnology, chip technology, you start building chips and then you go down in size and size and size, and now we are at a few nanometers, you know, in the most modern chips. But building it up, bottom up, yeah, and go to the range of 1 to 100 nanometer size. This is nano, and it took 50 years before I had the privilege, you know, that I got this call from Stockholm, together with my colleagues Jean-Pierre Sauvage and Fraser Stoddart. So, to put it in the right perspective for those people who are not aware, and I know there are many people working in nanoscience here, but 1 nanometer is 1 billion of a meter, 1,000 times smaller than micro. So a cross-section of your hair, look, you see, this is one of my hairs, Can you see it? No? Okay. One cross-section of my hair is 80,000 nanometer. 80,000. Excuse me, it's huge compared to what we are doing, the molecular scale. Size matters. Now, I tell you, I was in Valencia not so long ago, and you have these beautiful sandy beaches, but I know you have also these pebble beaches. And when you go in this summer, you know, I'm sure some of you will go to the beach, yeah? When you drop on this sandy beach, yeah, you feel very relaxed, you don't care, yeah? And but when you drop on this pebble beach, you take care. And when there is a pebble in your bath suit, you take it out because it hurts. It's the same material, yeah? And when you come from the beach and it is a bit windy and you take a shower, this fine sand is everywhere. So yes, size matters. And this is of course what we see in nanotechnology a lot. You know, the nanoparticles, you know, the tiny sizes. So for instance, these quantum dots, yeah? You see you go from 6 to 2 nanometer, you get the different colors. And when you have this very high resolution TV screens, I mean, Atletico Madrid or Real Madrid, I don't make a choice here, yeah? Maybe Barcelona, you look at their match, yeah, it makes a much better impression, you know, when you have this high definition televisions using nanotechnology. This is on the market nowadays, of course. Nanoparticles, you know, look, this is a screen, a sunscreen, nanosensitive, yeah? It's absolutely, it feels so good. But it's also a bit expensive, ladies. Sorry, man, sorry, I should not say this, man. It feels good. Yeah, but it's all to do with the particle size. But what we do is we build atoms, we build molecules, etc., molecular nanotechnology. But now the question comes, how can you see at this scale? I get this question often, you know, because microscopes, you don't see nano. Micro is 1,000 times larger. And everybody here looked sometime in school or so through a microscope. But now we need nanoscopes, and we should not forget that. The developments in physics and equipment to develop all these machines that make it possible that we can study at the nanoscale is as crucial as making nanomaterials and making things. So nowadays we have these microscopes, which are nanoscopes. They are like a needle. They end in a tip of one atom, for instance, and you can screen and you can feel the surface. You can feel atoms and molecules. And you can even move atoms, you know. Look at this. IBM wrote this, yeah, on a 2 to 3 nanometer, 4 to 3 nanometer size nano USA. And just to give you an impression, yeah, the cross-section of this hair I was talking about, yeah, 80,000 nanometers, you can write 250 million letters. So you can write a lot of books on the cross-section of a human hair, just to give you an impression of how it works. So, my journey started, I told you, you know, when I grew up and in the context of this whole program. And then when I started, you know, as a young lecturer at the university, and I had to build my own program, I thought, okay, can we do switching, like in your eye? Can we do information storage, yeah, computing with molecules, like in your eye? And so you all know what a switch is, 0, 1, 0, 1, yeah, switch back and forth. And if we could do that, we could maybe control not only information, but also kind of dynamic functions and make things move. And hopefully you are convinced now that we can do all kinds of things, yeah, but this does not move, this does not move, this does not move, yeah, but I move. So, how to make motion? And so, the most beautiful switch that we know, yeah, is the retinol in your eye. It was mentioned already before, the band molecule and the linear molecule. So when light comes to your eye, yeah, and I see you and you see me, yeah, there is switching, and there are millions of these switches in your eye. They change the protein, that cause a signal to the brain, yeah, and this is how we retrieve information. But it's also crucial, because now I look in this projector here, and for a fraction of a second, I don't see you anymore. Why is that? Because there are too many ones, and there are not enough zeros. And it takes a moment before you are back in the zero state. And of course it has to switch back, because it does not switch back. Yeah, you start your car once and you cannot get it off. Or you start your laptop or your smartphone. So it has to switch back and forth. And that was a serious problem. So we made molecular switches, yeah, that we could switch back and forth. These are synthetic designs. They are 1 nanometer in size. We could switch back and forth. And this is the natural system in the eye. This is the synthetic system that we made, 1 nanometer at the molecular level. And we use them for information storage and computing. And to give you an impression, without going into the details, you know, we built together with the Philips company, you know, the electronic company, we built plastic where we could store information, 01, 01, 01. And so one compact disc, sorry for the young students, they don't know what a compact disc is anymore because it's old-fashioned technology. But the older people here in the front, the senior people, they still know what a compact disc is. A compact disc, you can store music, yeah? And so you can calculate if you can store at the molecular level this kind of megabytes on one compact disc. So that means that your grandparents and your grandchildren, 6 generations, can use one compact disc and for 240 years constantly play music. Okay? That's the promise of nanoscience. Now that's not entirely reality yet, because if you want to have this information density, you have to address each molecule, each 01, 01, 01. And that is not possible yet. So I look at the young students to help me to answer this question because I'm struggling already for 25 years with that. Well, we can address one molecule, but then we put one molecule here, and then we put the other molecule in the monastery and the other one downtown. So you have to separate at the nanoscale because otherwise it does not work yet. Yeah? So this is still a serious problem. But this is the promise of nanotechnology. Now I want to show you one other example, and that is what we have done a lot recently, and this field is now very, very, how do you call it? It's almost exploding. Many groups in the world are working on this, to make smart medicine. If you go to the doctor and you have something, yeah, you want to have a drug, a pill, a pharmaceutical, it should be active, otherwise you don't like your doctor. But we want to have something that's not active, because we want to activate it exactly there where it's needed. Precision therapy, switching a medicine on with a light signal, with a laser. You know, I point there, it switches on, that's it. Why do we want that precision therapy? Yeah? My dream is, you know, you have something here in your body, an infection or so. Yeah? You take this drug, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't harm you. For instance, with a bacteria, you know, you don't get all these side effects, that it harms also the bacteria in your guts. Yeah? You have to go to the toilet often. Okay. What you want is that you switch it on exactly here with the laser there, yeah? And then it does its job, and after some time it's finished, yeah? And it's harmless. So does it work? We work on two important problems: bacterial resistance and cancer treatment. Now, we all experienced the COVID crisis, but realize there are some other crises. For instance, bacterial resistance, it was called one of humanity's ticking time bombs by the World Health Organization. Many, many people die of bacterial infection. It has to do with bacterial resistance. Cancer treatment, we all know examples of these nasty side effects in chemotherapy. And my dream is, with the new imaging techniques that become available, that you can precisely activate the chemotherapy for these tiny tumors that the surgeon cannot remove because they cannot find them. That's the dream. Does it work? Yes. You see here, I don't look at all the details, but this is an antibiotic that's used in the clinic, in the hospital. We put in a light switch, we can switch on, we can switch off, and we can precisely activate a drug, yeah, there where it's needed. This is a Petri disk that the students use in the laboratory to grow bacteria. Here the bacteria grow normal, here the bacteria don't grow. Here we irradiate with light, here we don't irradiate. Just cover it, So you can grow precisely bacteria. And of course, after a couple of hours, yeah, it switches back, the bacteria grow normal, no antibiotic activity, no resistance buildup. That's the idea. Smart drugs, and it will come, yeah? Now, last Friday, I got a phone call from America, from a colleague. We are in the patient. We are in the patient. That's an important message, to bring it from the lab into the patient in the clinic, you know. So this looks very promising. So this is chemotherapy. Again, you know, you can take a chemotherapeutic agent, yeah, and you can switch on and off. And of course, this is far from the clinic. It's a bit futuristic. but in cells, etc., in the laboratory, it works. So switching on and off. And I want to share with you something very recent, which is very exciting for us. We all know that we have a cell, and a cell is an extremely complicated thing. Yeah? The cell is more complicated than the city of Madrid, with everything in and out. Yeah? Realize that. But what we did is, we took, together with our colleagues from biology, we took a pore-forming protein, yeah, that is normally, you find this in spiders and so, and this is the so-called Frag protein, and we put in a light switch, and now it starts to drill a hole in a cancer cell when you switch it on with light. Normally it doesn't do anything, yeah? So this is a natural system. We modified it a little bit. This is the power of nanoscience, yeah? You can take advantage of Mother Nature, you modify it a little bit, we switch with light, and it drills a hole in a cancer cell. Again, this is a bit science fiction, eh? But it works. And so in the future, we might have molecular surgery or nanosurgery, yes? So there will be changing things in the medical profession in the future, taking advantage of all these new technologies, and this is just one example. So, science is also beauty. It's about discoveries, and I hope I also convince you going from very fundamental to applications that might be life-saving, you know, or new technologies for society or in the hospital. But we were facing a serious problem, and that is how to get light in your body. And you don't want to use blue light, UV light or so, because it is harmful, yeah? It might harm your body and it doesn't go deep. But red light or near-infrared light is innocent and it goes centimeters deep. And so my students worked on that, and also in several groups in the world. And what you see here is the hands of one of my PhD students. And you see red light goes straight through the fingers. And he discovered, yeah, switches that we can put in these antibiotics and these anti-tumor compounds that you can switch with red light. And now we can go to living tissues, yeah, because it's harmless, and we can switch with red light. These are the hands, yeah, and there was a very famous photographer that came from America, and he visited Cambridge, etc. And he had heard about this, and he came also to our labs. And my students were very excited, and he made these pictures, and this picture was in an exhibition in the museum. I have only this one, but it was in many musea, in exhibitions. Yeah? And this is the hand of my PhD student. So sometimes, you know, as a PhD student, you not only make a nice scientific discovery, but you can end up also, your hand can end up in a museum, you know, which is not bad, I'd say. The reason I show this is, enjoy the beauty of science, and science, yeah, and art share imagination and creativity, yeah? And I think there's a lot in common between the arts and the sciences, we should not forget. So now, just to summarize this part, yeah, the bio-nano future, yeah? There's a lot, and I know in the institutes and at your university, a lot of people working in this field, crossing borders between chemistry, physics, biology, medicine, etc., material science. There's tremendous opportunity to discover. I just focus on DNA. A lot is going on, of course, of modifying DNA, re-engineering DNA, etc. Rewiring the brain in the field of optogenetics, yeah? Neuroscience institutes work a lot in this field. We work a lot in smart medicine, photopharma, yeah? So to make a simple drug, yeah, photoactive, so you can tune it. And of course, network complexity. Yeah, I mentioned this before when I talked at the institute. This is not the metro of Paris, ladies and gentlemen. This is just a tiny part of the huge complex network of all the biological processes in your body. And if you can switch on and off one of these parts, you have much better regulate functions or understand what happens in Mother Nature. But I want to continue with molecular motors, yeah, in the second part of my talk. So, molecular motors, because I talked about switches, switching back and forth, but that's not a motor. So I work on molecular motors and realize we all know what that there are motors that we move, you know. When you move, when I go to the beach, you know, with a small kid, and he sees pebbles or he sees these small crabs, the kid immediately, although even today we don't have a proper academic definition of what is life. What is alive? There's a lot of debate, what is exactly life? Okay? But a kid of 3 years old knows immediately what is alive, because when he looks at the pebbles, he said, that's dead and this is alive. Okay? It moves. In your body, I told you already, there are all these motors and machines that make it possible, you know, that we can talk, we can see each other, etc. It pushes things out of equilibrium. And I mentioned this before, some people realize it. I hear on television and in magazines sometimes, yeah, or quite often actually, be in equilibrium. Be in harmony or in balance with your life. That's fine, yeah? But don't be in equilibrium, because if you are in equilibrium, your body is dead. You are constantly pushed out of equilibrium due to these tiny machines, yeah? Out of equilibrium. That is life, okay? So, this is the most beautiful machine. You know, in Holland, I'm from the Netherlands, and we are very proud of Verstappen. You know, Max Verstappen? Yeah, he won now 6 Grand Prix Formula 1 in a row. It's amazing, this guy. Also here in Barcelona, I think, or where was he? So this guy is absolutely marvelous, and he has a fantastic motor, yeah, in his car, in this Formula 1 car. And I'm sure you are all proud, those people that have cars are proud on their motor. This is the most fantastic motor in the world. This is the ATPase rotary motor in your body, millions and millions of these motors that make the ATP the fuel in your body. And I mentioned this before, so the people here that know the answer should not give the answer. But do you know how much it produces every day, every 24 hours? Half your body weight, indeed. She knows the answer, she is a biologist. Here, half your body weight every 24 hours. Now, I appreciate Spanish food a lot, yeah? But I don't eat half my body weight, not 35 kilograms, I tell you, or 40 kilograms. It is all recycled. Can you imagine? What is one of the most impressive challenges that we have, yeah, is how to recycle our materials, our plastics, all the precious materials. That's one of the big challenges for the coming decades, yeah? Come on, guys, we are not smart enough. Your body recycles every 24 hours, half your body, by these tiny nanomachines. So we can learn something from it. So what were the fundamental questions? You see it rotates, yeah? It spins, and it goes in one direction. So the fundamental scientific questions were, when we had to design a molecular motor, how to control rotary motion, yeah? How to control rotation. You have to put energy in it. If you have a car, you put petrol in it, or diesel, or you put electricity in it if you have an electric car. And you have to control left or right. If it's no distinction between clockwise and counterclockwise, right or left, in your car, you stand still. You don't get anywhere. Either go in this direction or in this direction. So, we do this taking advantage of so-called mirror image symmetry, chirality. And the most beautiful one is the right-handed helix of the DNA, the right-handed spiral of the DNA. Left and right, you can distinguish, clockwise and counterclockwise. It was called the Mona Lisa of modern science. Now, I know many people struggle with left and right. I struggled my whole life as a scientist with it because it's such a fundamental question. Because the essential molecules in your body are all right-handed or left-handed. And nobody knows where it comes from. It's a mystery related to the origin of life. One of the very fundamental questions. It's still today, it's a mystery. So, I learned it on the farm. Because when I was a small kid, we had these wooden shoes. And I tell you, I know I was a student as well, and sometimes you had a little bit too much beer in the evening, you had a nice party, and in the morning you step in the wrong shoe. But that's okay. But I tell you, as a kid, if you step with your left foot in the right wooden shoe, it hurts so much that for the rest of your life you know how to distinguish between right and left. So, this is what we did. We made a molecule, that under the influence of light can rotate, and it's built of right-handed molecules or left-handed molecules. The right-handed molecules spin clockwise, the left-handed molecules spin counterclockwise. Why do they spin? Because they are powered by light. And they rotate, constantly due to the energy of the light. And they rotate in one direction because we break the symmetry, left or right. This is 1 nanometer in size, the smallest rotary motor in the world. And the first rotary molecular motor that was built, the nanomotor. So here it is. You see it's powered by light energy, and you can clearly see it as 4 steps. So it goes in a circle by 4 steps by light energy and thermal energy. And we can precisely tune, this behavior of this motor. And you might ask me the question, How fast is such a motor? Can we build a car with it? The first motor that we built, now, more than 20 years ago, it rotated once an hour. Now, you cannot build a car with it, you cannot do much with it. But we were very lucky because we could see all these 4 steps of the rotary cycle, and we could prove, because that's the importance of science. You have to come with proof, because otherwise your colleagues will say, okay, great idea, but proof, come with data, This is what we have to do, Also to convince our government and so, our politicians, with scientific data that they can build, programs on it. Think about COVID, etc. Why do we need vaccines? So, data. And so that is what we did. Now we have motors, as was mentioned earlier, that spin 10 million times per second, and everything in between. So we can precisely tune the speed of these motors. So we can also make kind of machines. You see, here you have 2 axles. This rotates you under the influence of light, but this also rotates, you see. But there is something very special. If you look carefully, you see that this part here, where I point with my red pointer, it always has the same phase to this one. So this is synchronized motion. You know how we designed this? Because we were sitting with our students and discussing about more complex movement, coupling movement, synchronizing movement, to build more complex machines. And my students looked at the moon. Now you might say, are these students in Holland, in Groningen, so romantic that they look at the moon all the time? No, because there is something, or maybe they do in the evening, I don't know. But there is something very special. Look, the moon, we all know, when you look at the moon, the man on the moon, you see it always from the same face. There is synchronized motion, like I show here. And this was quite a complex design, how to couple these motions and to make synchronized motion. But you can imagine, we are extremely happy now that we can make this kind of movements where we couple and we can make more complex machinery. But this is where we get a lot of fun. You all know what a display is. I've mentioned already the smartphone, your TV screen, your computer screen, etc. The materials in your display are rod-like molecules, like beams in a river, And normally, when you in a display, when you want to make a color pixel, you organize them in a helix, Because the reflection wavelength of the light is depending on the helix. When you have a long helix, it's red light. When you have a short helix, it's blue light. So you can make color pixels. And we thought, okay, let's take these soft materials, from your screen, and put in our motor a tiny amount, only 1%. And the motor spins, and it changes this organization. So it contracts, expands, contracts, expands. And look, you get all the colors of the rainbow. There it's clearer on that screen. So this is a way to change and make color pixels and use our motors to amplify. But now comes the eureka moment, and I think some of you have seen this before, the eureka moment in my career. This was 6 years after we discovered the motor, and my students came to me, I will never forget, a Tuesday afternoon. I have to mention this because this is really important. 5:15 on a Tuesday afternoon, my students came to me, can you come to the lab, we want to show you something, because we did an experiment. They put this liquid crystal material. So if you have your smartphone and you push on the glass plate, I see that. If you push on the glass plate, there's soft material, madam, Don't push too hard, because you destroy your smartphone. The soft material, they put a thin layer on the surface, Then they put in the motor, which is only a really tiny amount. You don't see it. It's only 1 billion of a meter. You put a glass rod, which is 10,000 times the size, and you see this is like waves on the sea, This is the surface, the soft material. And now, what they did is, they switched on the lamp. They don't touch. This is what I saw. Can you imagine this was this eureka moment? I was speechless. I could not speak for 5 minutes. Because I saw this moving. It spins clockwise, you see? The color changes, as I showed you before, color pixels. The whole surface is moving. So this was such an eye-opener that we could amplify from the nanoscale to a macroscopic phenomena, rotate, control the motion, control the surface movement, all these things. It's really amazing. And recently we have used these materials now to making soft robotics, like bending plastics. And you see we have now a piece of plastic with these motors in there, and they walk over the table. Now, I asked this question before. How many people here have plastic at home, a plastic bag that walks on the table? I don't think anybody. We have now a piece of plastic, and we put the light, we shine with light. These tiny motors contract, expand, and you see it starts walking towards the light. And we can make these robot arms, can make soft robotics, etc. This is where we stand. It's a lot of fun, I tell you, all this complex movement and so. And I'm from the Netherlands. And in the good tradition of Holland, we build a windmill. But now we build a nano windmill, 2 billionths of a meter in size. You know, when we were part of Spain, 500 years ago, our ancestors built these beautiful windmills. And when you go to the tulip fields, you can still see these old windmills here. They are really marvelous. These are the modern windmills in Holland and also here in Spain. But we built a nano windmill. You see legs, stator, axle, rotor, they spin, they propel, they rotate. And here it is, we built a nano windmill park. This is 20 meters in size, this is 2 nanometers. 1 billion of a meter in size. And they all spin under the influence of sunlight, all in the same direction. Now you might say, okay, if you are not in academia, you're not in research, you might say, what are these professors doing with all this money, And what are these professors doing with their students, They play Lego and they build nano windmills. Is this any good for? But you realize if you can control motion, on the surface, the whole surface is moving, is responsive. And this is what is the, This is what is the future. You make self-cleaning windows, We make coatings on windows and they move and they clean themselves. I've seen the first example now of a self-cleaning window. Watch, you don't have to clean your window in the future. Solar panels. In Holland, it's not an issue, because it rains a lot and they clean themselves. But in the south of Spain, with all the dust on the panels, you have to clean them, otherwise the performance goes down. Cars that you don't have to wash anymore because you get a coating that's responsive to sunlight. Scratches in your car in the future you don't have to repair because if it's dynamic, it will repair. I mean, when I have a scratch in my finger, it repairs itself, at least when I keep it clean. This is what we will get, self-repair materials in the future. Why not? Nature does it all the time. And when we can make movement, there will be a big evolution in the coming decades to these kind of materials. Not now with your car, And maybe the first time with Ferrari, when you buy an expensive car, because they can afford this coating. But I predict that in 25 years from now, we will have self-cleaning windows and we have these cars that clean themselves, or also materials that repair themselves. We have now a piece of plastic in the lab. We cut it, This was another remarkable experiment. We cut it, and we put it together, and thanks to these tiny machines, after 10 minutes, it's completely repaired. Can you imagine? This will happen. So, I was really, as a scientist, it's fantastic that you get a medal, an honor. You mentioned a few honors. I know this professor got several honors. I'm sure the others as well. But this was a great honor. I was in Berlin with my students, and on the wall, there is still pieces of the old Berlin Wall. And there was graffiti on the wall, and you see, the artist put our windmill on the wall. See, 3 legs, there is the windmill. How beautiful can it be to do science that an artist picks it up and puts it on the wall in his graffiti, You was visiting Berlin at that time. Right. Now, let me share you one more story, and that is about our nano car. Because I got always this question, you make rotations like in a real car. But can you do also propulsion? Can you move something forward? So it was not about, please misunderstand me, it was not about building a nano car, it was about how to go from rotation to translation. That's what a real car does. So my students, I have to tell you now the story. I got a grant from the science minister, in The Hague. And then I had to come there and to explain, we had this meeting, this symposium. What are you going to do with this money? So I had a discussion with my students, and we had built these motors and so, and they were a bit jealous, of the engineers. Because these engineering schools, I'm not sure, there are also teams from Spain or so. They go to Australia, and they have this car race, 3,000 miles across the desert, with solar panel powered cars. It's absolutely fabulous. But I said to them, can we go to Australia? I said, look guys, we are molecular engineers, We are not at the engineering school. And so then we decided to build a nano car. Yeah? So this is 2 meters and this is 2 nanometers, 1 billion times smaller. And you see it's a 4-wheel drive. So 4 of these motors are the wheels. And I said to them, okay, if you finish, yeah, you can go to a conference in Australia and I will pay. But in Holland, a PhD is 4 years. Yeah? And the first design was wrong. I will tell you in a moment why. So the first generation of students never made it to Australia. I'm sorry for them. It took us 8 years, and then we finished the project, and we could prove that indeed we had the nano car. So here's the nano car, you know, the 4 wheels. And what was the problem? I don't know if you ever realized, when you see a car moving forward on the street, the wheels, the front wheels, they move clockwise, eh? Then you go forward, eh? Okay? But when you are behind the steering wheel, this is a fundamental symmetry problem. One wheel goes like this, and one wheel goes like that. They go in opposite directions. One goes clockwise, and the other goes counterclockwise. So originally, my students built the nano car with the 4 wheels, all in the same direction. You know what happened? The car was turning rounds and not going forward. And then we did it properly, and it was moving. And you see here, oh, oops. Is it moving? Not moving? It moves. I'm not sure. I don't know why it doesn't move. It should move. I think the movie does not work, unfortunately. Sorry for that. But just to put it in the right perspective, the movement at the nanoscale is different from the movement of a car in the street, yeah? When I lift my arm, the muscles here, yeah, there are millions of these motors that walk and make it possible that I move. And so our nano car more likely is like Mother Nature, you know, it steps, yeah? It walks over the surface, yeah? And if you don't believe me, yeah, so this is how it really works in the nano. Welcome in the nano world. This is what happens in your body now. Look, realize this is now happening in your body. When you go, yeah, on the highway here in Spain, in your body, in your cell, the highway is built. And when the car passes, the highway is broken down, yeah? And when the next car comes, it builds a new highway. This is all dynamic in your cells, these functions. And this is how it operates, yeah? So this is transport in your cell. Now, in your cells, lots and lots of transport. This is movement in the nanoscale. So we built a nano car. You know, this is a modern electric car. This is our nano car. Look, this white powder. Yeah? Realize it looks not much, eh? But there are 1 billion times 1 billion identical nano cars in this tiny tube. So our car manufacturing plant is not so bad after all, eh? This is materials at the nanoscale. There was also a car race. I know some people here know that very well. That was in Toulouse. The first Formula 1 race for nano cars was in 2017. Yes? Okay, and there will be another one soon. So, to finish, will we have the fantastic voyage? Will we get robots that get into your body? Ladies and gentlemen, we built also a nanotube with 2 enzymes as catalysts, as motors. And then we were discussing how can we get a nanotube moving in your body, in your blood vein. And then we decided sugar is a nice fuel. There is plenty of sugar. And yes, indeed, we built this nano submarine powered by sugar. And here it is. And hopefully now the movie works. You see, these bubbles is oxygen, yeah? These are moving tiny aggregates of nanotubes. They cluster together a little bit. And you see the spiders move. I don't touch it, eh? It moves with sugar water. Only sugar water. If the sugar is consumed, it stops. So we have now a nano submarine, although it's extremely primitive, yeah? But it moves with sugar, yeah? And it's compatible to a biological environment. So the question now is, will we have nanorobots in the future, science or science fiction? I predict that in 50 years from now, when you go to the hospital, the surgeon will inject a nanorobot, yeah? Maybe not this design, but a better design. And yes, it will go to find a tumor, or to do a defect, or to deliver a drug, or maybe do a repair to the cell. But I'm not good in prediction, because I'm a scientist. And the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And that is what we do together. So today, I took you on a small journey, starting with Mother Nature to build switches and motors. And in the future, I hope we will have smart drugs, as I showed you, responsive materials, molecular machines, soft robotics. All these things will come. Once you know how to move things, and when you work together across disciplines, as I see in the institute where I was yesterday, it's fantastic to cooperate with all your colleagues. There are so many tremendous opportunities, and we will see all these things in the future. But there is many challenges, How are we going to do CO2 reduction? We will need these nanostructured catalysts in the future to convert CO2. How to recycle, I mentioned this. How to feed 10 billion people. How to fly without kerosene in the future. There are all the big challenges where science will lay the foundation for solutions for the future. Of course, we have also to change our attitude, society. There are many societal issues and social issues, but this is where we can make a difference, I think, together. So, the most important slide, sharing a passion with the young stars, inventing our future. But these are my heroes. These are the students that we educate, and students that are involved in this programs and that are very brave to do this. And then I get the question often, did you know that you would get a Nobel Prize? So allow me to give a few more slides, on that. The answer is no. Because I was a scientist, I was working, and of course sometimes in the field people say, okay, this area might get sometimes a Nobel Prize, but there is so many competition, there are many excellent scientists, etc. But then I got a call from America. On a Wednesday evening, 9:15, a colleague from mine, from Illinois, he called me in the evening, he said, Ben, yesterday evening you were on American television. I said, come on, you're kidding. Yes, primetime American television in The Simpsons. This was the week before the announcement of the Nobel Prize. And you see, The Simpsons predicted, betting pool. You see Richard Zaar, Bill Murner, Ben Feringa, and here, Murner, this was 2011. Murner got the Nobel Prize in 2014. I had to wait another 2 years. So the Simpsons were pretty correct. So the next morning, I came to the lab, and of course my students had seen this. Professor Ben, you will get the Nobel Prize. I said, come on. Yes, the Simpsons predicted. I said, look guys, if you get on American television as a scientist, and you get predicted by in The Simpsons, and you get predicted, etc., what is the greatest honor you can get, I don't need it. But then it took another 2 years, and I got to Stockholm, and it was like a fairy tale, It was absolutely amazing. This was the Swedish king, and this is unbelievable, this whole ceremony. And then we had a nice dinner, you see, for 1,200 guests here. It was also amazing, a 4-hour dinner, which was absolutely gorgeous. And then I gave a lot of lectures now for schools. I go to schools and to public, and we invited a lot of schools in the university, our how do you call it, Scholieren-academie, as we call it, and students from schools, elementary schools, high schools, and I spent a whole day with them. And then this committee said, we want to give something special to Ben Feringa, because he spent all this day, and we will have other events with the school kids. So how do they do this in America to honor a Nobel laureate? So this is Sir Fraser Stoddart. He is in Chicago. And you see, in the front of the chemistry department, reserved parking for Sir Fraser Stoddart, 2016 Nobel laureate in chemistry, permits FO1, FO2. This is his limousine. So he has in front of the chemistry building, he has 2 of these big parking lots, and there he can park his limousine, This is how they do this in America. But Holland is a small country, and they said to me, now we have a problem, because Ben Feringa never comes by car. I always bike. And so now you see here, bicycle parking space for Nobel laureates. So in our lab, in front of the building, there is the bike shed, and there is this small plaque, and it says, I have my own biking spot. It's this plaque, I'm so honored. It's fantastic. So just for the young talents here, I show this slide again. Yeah, you saw now how my journey started and how it ended. Yeah, and I got this magic call from Stockholm, but I had also to discover, yeah, uncertainty. We have to deal with that when you want to become a scientist. But discover your talent. Follow your dreams. That's the most important one. Be confident. Discover your energy. What is your passion? And discover your limits. How high can you set the bar? Sometimes it's really rewarding to do something difficult because it gives a real kick, you know, that you accomplish something. It's an adventure for all of us. Everybody here, it was an adventure in their life to make their career. But it starts with dreams, yeah? Follow your dreams. That's the best advice I can give. And so I once again want to finish with Leonardo da Vinci, yeah, my hero, one of my heroes. And he said 500 years ago, and I know we had a debate a little bit about this quote, but I still use it. When nature finishes producing its own species, man begins with the help of nature to create an infinity of species. We are just at the beginning. There is so much to discover and so much challenges ahead for all of us, and especially for the young people here, the young talents, because you will shape the future. And so, for all of you, imagine the unimaginable. Follow your dreams. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for such a stimulating presentation, many advices. Everybody recognizes how Simpson, particularly Bart Simpson, has a strong influence on our society. So not every day we have the opportunity of having such a kind of scientists with us. And because of that, I will open for maybe 2-3 questions.
Yes.
Particularly everybody, but students, please, precise questions, and don't tell us your history. And just, but
please ask questions.
But just wait a moment before starting. I have my own question, and I know that I don't have the opportunity of saying because I couldn't show.
You're still a student, huh?
I couldn't show a few slides, but today there is people are worried because if you mix, it was Drexler in the 80s who pay attention to the possibility of machines for future, and. I'm not talking about Terminator, but I'm talking about what happened when you mix machines or molecular machines with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
What about this?
Yeah, I think that will happen, of course. You build nano machines, etc., and some people are very scared about nano robots and so. We should be serious about it. Of course, there are aspects that you want to take care of, and especially also with artificial intelligence, you know, when you put in all the data and information, and these machines start to do autonomous things, etc., in the future, we have to also think about how far do we want to go and what kind of restrictions do we want to make. But the same thing we do with drugs, pharmaceuticals. If you go to the hospital, yeah, you don't take any compound, you know. These are tested. There's a long journey, yeah, of testing before anything is applied in the hospital. You get approval. And I think we have to do this the same with nanotechnology and nanorobots. I'm not so scared about nanorobots. The most dangerous nanorobot that I know is the COVID virus. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really scaring, and we know we all suffered from that. And some bacteria as well that can be really nasty. But yes, we should not deny this. And I think in our education at the universities, we should think about these ethical aspects. And we should also think about where do we want to go. We should discuss this openly in society, also with our politicians and so. Regulators, you know, state regulators, what do we want? The same holds for genomic technology. This discussion is ongoing at the moment, you know, in the European Union as well. Eh? What do we want? Eh? Do we want to take out an inherited disease? Do we want to improve, you know, crop production, that we need less herbicides, for instance? On the other hand, people can use it also awkward, But I think it's our duty in the universities to discuss these aspects and to be aware of it and to train, you know, what are the positive sides and what are potential dangers. It's much better when you step in a plane, yeah? In the beginning, when they were flying, you remember, people were really scared and said, okay, a flying machine? But I think you're better off when you have rules how to build an airplane and to do it properly, and then to train your pilots properly that they can fly an airplane, yeah? But you don't want to step in any airplane, you know, where you don't have a proper pilot, or whatever, you know, or an airplane where the wings do this, like a bird, because it does not work. So I think this is an important point, and we should go to the future, but we should also think about ethical aspects, potential dangers, and whatever. And yeah, people, look, we get a hip implant or an artificial knee, we find it normal, yeah? Or a bypass when you have a heart problem. In the future, yeah, I predict, of course now artificial skin, you get beautiful examples. I mean, when you see the work of Zinan Bao at Stanford, they make artificial skin with these sensors and so, it's absolutely marvelous. In the future, you will get a chip in your brain. Don't worry, yeah? But this will come when we know more about our brain function. So when this chip helps you when you are older, that you are moving better, yeah? Or your transmission, you know, goes better, or you don't forget so easily, yeah? Which we also suffer when you get older. Yeah, I think the young people have no problem here, but we get at this stage maybe a little bit. So then you get a chip in your brain that helps a little bit. Why not? Why not a chip in your brain while you have a hip implant? But of course, we have to be careful, because you don't want to have a chip implanted that your neighbor can zap you, yeah? Or what I heard recently, yeah, that they can download, yeah, your brain content on the internet. Because then the question is, where are you? Are you here or are you on the cloud, in the cloud? Yeah? This is things we have to discuss in society. What do we want in the future? Yeah? On the other hand, we should not hesitate to discover, to invent, to bring science forward.
Just to calm the people, just a few days ago I watched on the TV, a Spanish TV, that a robot was interviewed by a human.
Oh yeah.
And he was asked, do you think that you are more appropriate to become, for instance, the president of a country? And the robot said, yes. And just to calm the people, the second question was, is in your future to rebel against human being? And the answer was, not really, because so far human beings, we receive a very nice treatment by the human beings, so in principle not.
So don't worry.
This is amazing.
Don't worry.
Just to calm people.
Human intelligence, human creativity, will always be at the lead. Don't worry.
Okay, let's go to these 2-3 questions, please. First one.
Yep.
Can you please say your name and where are you coming from? Yeah. Yeah,
maybe
microphone, please.
Maybe the microphone.
Thank you for your speech. It was very inspirational. My question was just if you can give directions to your movement, because the movement was linear or maybe...
Yeah. No, the rotational movement, of course, goes clockwise or counterclockwise. So we can give direction to the movement, and when we put it into these materials, you know, they move in one direction. Yeah. Or the muscles move like this, you know, they can pick up things, etc. With respect to the last example, where we had this submarine, it was a little bit, awkward, movement. So it propels. There, the directionality is still difficult, you know. We try to do that by making particles, you know, that are different on one side or the other, and then we can make directionality in the movement. But this is still less controlled. But with the light-driven rotary motors, we can control all kinds of movements very well. Yeah, directionality and so, no problem.
Okay,
thank you.
Second one. Any other?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, please don't hesitate to ask questions. You know, I'm here to discuss with you.
Thank you very much for your speech. I found it really encouraging, and in that aspect, I wanted to ask you, well, I suppose your career has been long and also difficult at sometimes. So I wanted to ask you, how have you dealt with frustration along your career?
That's a very good question.
I think it's kind of easy to say, follow your dreams, but maybe...
No, I mentioned clearly at the beginning that it's always difficult to make the first steps. What is the first steps, what choice to make, And I got an advice from a very famous Dutch professor, and he said, choose an important problem. But that's also easy to say, because you cannot work on every problem in the world. You can only solve maybe a small problem. So you should also be realistic at the beginning of your career, to do a small step, but come with something original. Try to think about it. Don't always look at the old professors, they have discovered everything. No, you are very creative as young students, You come with a fresh mind, you look from a different perspective. And that's very important in our academic world, and to do discoveries and invention and advanced knowledge, that you also think from a different perspective. The most important thing is, of course, at the universities in our teaching and in research is asking questions, Not only to the students, but in particularly also to the professors. And we learn a lot from each other, and we stimulate each other. That's a two-way operation. That's the beauty. And we are critical, We learn a critical attitude, Don't believe everything that people are saying. But it is difficult. And if you cannot stand, you have to enjoy, the beauty of knowledge, discovery, science, creativity. But of course, you cannot avoid frustration and uncertainty. If you cannot stand uncertainty, do not become a scientist. Because I'm not don't know exactly what I will do in a couple of weeks, We have programs, we have plans, we have to write for grant applications with a clear goal, but often it goes completely wrong. And so frustration, yes. I'll tell you one story, if I'm allowed. We worked on I was not discussing about catalysis, but catalytic conversions, like the enzymes in your body. Catalysis is the core of the chemical process, the chemical industry. And we work on new catalysts, for making carbon-carbon bonds. That is really crucial in chemistry. We have been working on that, on particularly one with lithium, for 20 years, Nothing worked. My students, every time I came with a new idea or we had discussions, and my students said, I don't want to work. Give me another project. I don't want to work on this because it always fails. And they were right. And then I had a Spanish postdoc. I don't want to mention a name. I have students as postdoc from Spain. This guy is one of my heroes. I tell you why. He worked on that project. He worked on that project as a small side project, together with some other things. And I think on the Thursday evening, he went with the friends to the pub, or he played soccer or whatever. Maybe Real Madrid was playing. And they had a good time. And then in the morning on Friday, he came to the lab, and he started his experiments, and he took a wrong bottle of solvent that we never use in this kind of experiments. And nobody in the world does, because they think it doesn't work. He took that bottle, and then at lunchtime he came to me and said, Ben, it looks like the reaction works. I said, what did you do? Yeah, I made a failure. I took the wrong bottle, I shouldn't do that because it could be dangerous. I said, yeah, damn it could be dangerous, don't do that. And then he did a lot of control experiments, and it worked fantastic. And we have now several publications. People use it now in industry, This was 6 years ago. And it works fantastic. So sometimes you simply have to make mistakes or allow to make mistakes, and you learn from that. This is also science, Don't be too afraid to make a mistake, because you have to think about what do you learn from that, And this was fantastic, because he made after 20 years, and then we did some experiments, of course, and we then realized what was the real, when you do some mechanistic studies and so on, you delve into it, we understood what we didn't understand for 20 years. And then suddenly we realized, oh yes, this is the clue, okay? So, accidental discoveries, mistakes, this is all part of the game, yes?
Serendipity.
Serendipity, yes, for sure, yes.
Okay,
Thank
don't
you very
miss
much.
the opportunity, okay? Go there, please.
Yes, that is also...
Hello. Thank you very much. It's been a very inspiring conference. I was thinking about the selfish gene that I was reading when I was a child, and the frontier between alive or dead, or physics or chemistry.
Yeah.
You put forward this example on an antibiotic that was activated by light, I guess visible light.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, I have recognized in this stage at what we are in the development of the technology, right? But I was thinking I have a problem because my body is not transparent.
No. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you if there is other methods that are on the table for either activation or for targeting where we want these machines or drugs to go.
No, you are absolutely right. I mean, I showed you already how we can propel with sugar and move things. But with the light activation, the beauty of light is that it's extremely precise in time and in space. You can precisely direct. But of course, light penetration, even with red light, is only a few centimeters. But the surgeons in the hospital, they tell me, Ben, don't worry. Make these activatable systems, make these nano switches in the drug. We can get light everywhere. Don't worry about that. But to answer your question, we also work on other approaches, like using ultrasound, and using X-rays, etc. This is really beautiful, to do other modalities that can go much deeper, etc. But you are absolutely right. There are different ways to do that. So ultrasound and all these things. Yeah.
Here, please. Here, this lady. Yeah. And then.
Yes.
And then. No.
Which one?
She was just a little bit before.
Okay.
So
All right.
go.
Thanks a lot of your conference. I would like to know what is your opinion about ChatGPT in the academical research. ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
Sí.
I don't know if I have a clear opinion on this. Of course, you have to be a bit careful when students, come with a fantastic, beautiful introduction, and the words are so smooth English that you think, where did they get it from? So yes, we have to train, But I think ChatGPT, we cannot avoid it. It will be used, but of course, at the end, what counts is the information, the data, the way it's done. But if students want to make exams with ChatGPT, I don't know. We have to find more ways to check that and make sure. I mean, a student will not be very proud, if he or she, learns that the computer did all the exams, They want to have, they are proud because they studied, they made the exam, they learned something, etc. They raised themselves to a certain level. But this is an issue which is debated now in many institutes, how to deal with these problems, Because you can make a beautiful speech. My speech was not ChatGPT, it was by natural. But you can make a beautiful speech, by ChatGPT, I tell you, But
open question.
Okay, it's an interesting one.
So let's go to the last question, I guess.
Hello. So thank you for your wonderful talk. I have a simple question, but not many people can answer it. This is what does change after the Nobel Prize?
What does change after Nobel Prize? That's a
What's
very good.
the most?
No, that's a very good. I could easily talk for the next hour about that. But I'm a scientist and I teach. I lecture. Courses to master students, and I do research with my team. And what happened, of course, with the Nobel Prize, you certainly get the highest award that is possible in science, and this is a dream, as I said. It's like a dream. And of course, certainly you become a celebrity. Because everybody is proud, and also, when I go on the street and people recognize you and say, oh, you were on television. Oh, I forgot your name, but you are very famous. You are a Nobel Prize winner. And so, but it's really beautiful, and everybody wants to have pictures, and signatures. I was with Fraser Stoddart in China, after this Nobel Prize, and I gave a lecture like here, and Fraser gave a lecture of 1 hour. And then they put two tables there, The lecture both lasted 1 hour, then we had 20-minute discussion each, but then there was a session of signatures, and selfies. And the line theirs, was 200 meters each, and it took 2.5 hours or something like that, And the Chinese, I remember the Chinese girl came to me and said, my mother said, you cannot come home anymore if you have not a picture, a selfie together with Ben Veringa. pop, pop, pop. Now, then you take hundreds of selfies, etc. But of course, it's also wonderful, you know, because what I said to the journalist, because the journalist said to me in Stockholm on television, what are you going to do now? Because this is the highest recognition, you are finished. And I said, look guys, I'm like an artist, you know, a scientist never finishes. A scientist is a passion, you know, it's a way of living, yeah? So we continue to do science and discoveries, etc. But of course, you also realize that you can be an advocate for science. So I go a lot to schools, to public events, yeah? Also in the government, and so I'm in the European Research Council in Brussels. So I give a lot of talks to advocate why science is so important, why teaching, why we should invest in our teachers, in our schools. Learning, you know, is the basis for our future, yeah? Don't underestimate, invest in the basis to make all these things possible. Otherwise, yeah, this is essential for a sustainable society. As you should be clear now, my passion is to make the young generations ready, yeah, because we can be very proud with our jobs, but you guys will take over these jobs. You will be the new burgermeisters. You will be the new leaders of your country, the leaders of industry, the innovators, yeah, and the scientists of the future. That makes it all possible. And so we should invest in that, yeah, in our future, and that is really important, you know. So, and I bring this message forward, and luckily enough, it seems that some people listen a little bit better maybe when you have a Nobel Prize. But basically, yeah, you become a bit of a celebrity, and I know now why I never wanted to become a Hollywood star or a musician, you know, because it's crazy, you know. You get constantly, you know, you have to put signatures and you have to the spotlights, etc. I don't envy these people, but I'm happy to advocate for science, you know, and these things, and this is what I try to do. Yeah. So I go also to elementary schools. It's really funny, you know, with the small kids, you know, and to discuss with them, and then, you know, do experiments with them, and it's fantastic. Then you get beautiful questions. One question, you know, I got from a kid in elementary school that we are working on this problem now. The question was, you work on these tiny nano cars, yeah? And I tell them, you know, how small they are, and they get a kind of idea, you know, how small something is. They said, do you ever get traffic jams? And this is a very important question, because if you have several of these tiny machines in a row, do they bump into each other, you know? And we had this problem with the windmills. When they come too close, they might move. So the other fundamental question I got at a high school. Excuse me,
what was the answer to that question? Traffic jam or not?
No, I said I don't know, because we are working on these roads and to make the nano cars moving like a train. So this was a really very important question of this small kid. Can you imagine how clever? And then I went to high school. This is my last story. I went to high school, to the gymnasium, 400 students, 15 to 18 years old. And usually I give a talk then, like here, and then we have an hour discussion with the kids. But there was a girl, 15 years old, stood up and said, Professor. I said, you must have a very important question. You cannot wait until we have a discussion. No, it must be fantastic that you got this gold medal. You never have to do an exam anymore and never have to study anymore. Yes, 400 kids start laughing, because for the students, you know, the most important thing is, of course, the exam. Yeah. And then I said, look, guys, I work together with the people in the medical school, in the hospital, and I don't speak their language, because these cell biologists and medical people have a different language from physics and chemistry and mathematics. So I bought, in the COVID crisis, I bought this big cell biology book, basic cell biology, that our first-year students at the university, I'm sure here as well, they get. And I'm studying like a first-year student, learning their language, because otherwise I cannot even communicate with the guys, and we have joint programs, etc. So I'm studying like a first-year student. And then it was silent. And then in the break, everybody came to me, Professor, you were joking, you don't have to study. I said, look, guys, it's not only about the exam, about your university or school. It's lifelong learning. You have to learn every day, even if you get a Nobel Prize. This is reality. And then you get a beautiful discussion, you know, and this is the wonder of, this is also one of the things, you know, after this Nobel Prize that I experienced, which is really nice, yeah? But I was in the train up to Schiphol Airport, yeah? And I was just sitting there, and I have to go 2 hours in the train, and I usually take some stuff from my students, you know. I have to, how do you call it, to correct a manuscript or a report or whatever, because you are 2 hours, no disturbed, not compromised. Students know exactly when I have to travel because they give me documents. I was 10 minutes in the train, a lady came to me, sitting next to me like this, with her phone, and she said, "Can I make a selfie? Because I want to make my husband jealous." This is also what happens to me. Thank you so much. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, my friend. My pleasure. So now let me give you an announcement. Now we have a barbecue for everybody, including students and so on. So please, in the garden,